Jack Shaw, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very good. Nice to have a little break in between training, mix it up a bit.
Nice. Now you're gearing up to fight, obviously, April 10th in Las Vegas. What's the schedule looking like for you at the moment? How are preparations going?
Yeah, prep's good. At the minute, just usual fight camp. 3, 4 sessions some days. One day a week off, but every other day is obviously spent grinding away. I'm about 5 or 6 weeks into the camp now because I think originally I was gonna fight the end of March, but it got pushed back to obviously the 10th. But yeah, a couple of my teammates are in fight camp as well. Brett Johns, who I trained with, is fighting a few weeks after me, so it sort of fell into a good time slot, and we're feeling good and ready to go.
Yeah. Now we obviously saw you back in action in the summer for Fight Island. What was that experience like for you? Obviously, that was only your second fight in the UFC, and then you're going over to Fight Island. I think it was only like the second show then. What was that overall experience like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely one I didn't want to pass up. To be honest, when I accepted the fight on Fight Island, we wasn't doing any real training. Obviously, Wales was in sort of full lockdown. I was fortunate enough that my father owns a gym, so I was managing to do a bit of training on my own, like bag work, cardio, stuff like that, but wasn't doing any like sparring, rolling, nothing. So, but it was one of them ones where I didn't think I would even get a chance to fight last year, sort of this time last year. So I thought there was no way I was going to pass it up. Fortunately, we managed to get a little bubble together. But the island itself was a tough experience with the quarantining. We did 48 hours in London. Obviously, you travel for a day, then 48 hours in Abu Dhabi. So it was more mentally tough than it was physically. Obviously, spending all that time in an hotel room when usually on fight week, I like to be in the gym 2, 3 times a day, road running, just to mix it up and break it up a little bit. Whereas for the majority, everything we was doing was sort of based pad work, just me and my father and my other coach, Carl, in the room. I was obviously fortunate that Brett Johns was fighting a couple of days after me as well, so we had a bit of company out there. But yeah, it was a tough experience, but one I would do again without a shadow of doubt. If they do go back to Fight Island, I would be happy to go back and fight what the UFC put on out there as far as the bubble and obviously building that little arena to fight. I know they got a big arena now, but at the time it was in like a marquee. So it was definitely one that is a story I'll be able to tell in years to come, that when the world was in a lockdown and there was a pandemic going on, I managed to get out to Abu Dhabi somehow and have a fight. So definitely one I would do again.
Yeah. And I mean, you had a great outcome. Obviously, you got a submission win, and there was a lot of great things said about you, especially on the commentary, even comparing you to GSP at one point. What did you think about those comments and getting that kind of recognition and high praise?
Yeah, it was a little bit sort of overwhelming at the beginning. Obviously, when I came out of the cage, I hadn't heard the commentary or anything, but I know they were comparing me to GSP. So, that in itself is a massive compliment. Been one of my idols for years, George. So to have that sort of comparison made means a lot to me. I don't necessarily base my style around his style, but when they said about it, I can sort of see the similarities. So if I can achieve a third of what George achieved, then I'll retire an happy man. But yeah, it was a great performance, and to sort of hear that the commentary and in general, like the media and everyone sort of seen my sort of potential coming out of that fight, it just showed I'm on the right path and doing things the right way. And I would have liked to have been a bit busier coming off the back end of that fight, but this year now I'm going to try and make up for a bit of inactivity last year.
Yeah, because you were supposed to fight Khalid Taha in November, weren't you? And I think
Yeah.
you had some visa issues. What happened there, and how disappointing was that for you?
Yeah, so it wasn't so much a visa issue. Basically, what it was, I had my appointment at the embassy to go. It's like an interview to go and have my visa, and me and my manager got up there, and for whatever reason, the embassy was closed. I don't know. There must have been an emergency or something like that. So we went back to the UFC. They rescheduled then the visa appointment for what would have been the Monday that I was meant to fly out to fight Khalid Taha. So they pushed the fight back 3 weeks. So I did get my visa in the end. Obviously, Taha stayed on the card, so I was looking for a new opponent. And they just couldn't get anyone on short notice to step in. And my team and my manager made a decision that, we didn't want to fly all the way out to Vegas without an opponent locked in, in the worry that we get out there and then they say you can't find no one. It would have been a wasted trip and wasted money. So it was more so that we couldn't get someone on short notice than the visa that actually stopped me fighting back in November. Thankfully I've got the visa now stamped in my passport, and we may have issues this time, but it won't be visa issues, fingers crossed.
So when did you hear about this matchup for April? You said obviously it was supposed to be March. When did you first hear about the matchup, and what did you think when they put forward Hunter Azure to you?
Probably it was about 5 or 6 weeks ago. I think it was 9 weeks out from the fight in total. I wasn't offered Hunter for March. I was told by my manager, look, sort of get yourself ready. We're aiming for the end of March, and then he came to me with the date of April the 10th. So when they put Hunter for, we was offered Hunter before back when they were looking for an opponent in November, but he couldn't make it. I think he picked up a cut in training or something. So he's someone I've had my eye on for a little bit of time. I remember watching him in the Contender Series, watched a few of his fights. I'm a bit of a geek, so any bantamweight fight on the card, I like to keep an eye on it. So I've seen him fight before. Tough fight, toughest fight to date, without a shadow of a doubt. He's a good wrestler. He throws a lot of heavy shots as well. So he's dangerous everywhere, but it's one of them ones where, to be honest, I think I can match up very well with him in all areas. But I'd say that about anyone I fight, to be fair. So it's just going to be one of them. We have to see how it goes on the night. But I know it's a tough test, but I'm very confident going in.
Is there anything that stands out to you with him? Anything that you've seen, perhaps good or bad?
Yeah, he's very dangerous on the feet. He's not the most technical striker, but when he throws, he throws everything with sort of 100% power. Although, I've got a good boxing background, and when I do watch him, he doesn't necessarily set up his shots. He's more of a just step in the pocket and let him fly. So as dangerous as that can be, I do believe that there's openings there that can be exposed as well. Obviously, he's a good level wrestler as well. But although I haven't got the accolades that some of the American guys got in the wrestling department, I do fancy myself as one of the better wrestlers in the division. So, I would like to get in a bit of a wrestling exchange with him as well, just to show that us Welsh guys, we can compete with the best of them in the wrestling too.
Yeah, and has anything changed in the preparations for Hunter that perhaps you didn't do last time, or have things pretty much stayed the same as normal?
Pretty much the same. Obviously, when preparing for the last fight, we wasn't in a lockdown in Wales, so I did have a lot more sort of sparring partners, whereas now obviously we're in a lockdown, so there's a bubble of sort of 4 to 5 of us. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's no easy rounds now. There's no rounds where you can relax a little bit, because every guy I'm sparring with now is a top level amateur, an elite level amateur or very established pro. So that's the only real difference. I've been doing a lot of sparring at Gary Lockett's gym with his pro guys, boxing wise, and they are bringing me on leaps and bounds in the boxing department. So I'm looking forward to hopefully showcasing a bit of that as well. But other than that, same team, same training partners. It's just been sort of more condensed in this time, rather than having 30 of us on the mat. There's only been 5 of us.
And talk a little bit about your relationship with your dad. Obviously, he's your coach, Richard Shaw. What's the dynamic? Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to have your father as your coach?
Yeah, I get asked this one a lot. Like, a lot of people say, how do you feel to have your dad as your coach? But the thing I sort of always say is I've never really known any different. It's not like, I had a coach and then sort of 2 or 3 years ago, I decided that my father was going to be my trainer. He's always been my trainer since I was 9 or 10 years of age when the gym started. So it works, when we're out of the gym, we're father and son. When we're in the gym, it's fighter and coach. There's no special treatment. If anything, he's probably harsher on me than he is some of the other boys. So what we're doing is obviously work so far. I've got other coaches as well, Carl, Gary and Greg and Heem, who all play their part as well. And I think he's not relied on him, but he's happy to have those guys there now. Look, now we're a little bit further into my pro career, because they take the weight off him a little bit, especially fight week. Like, I can see fight week, he's stressed, and before I'm about to go out to fight, and see he's nervous and a little bit wound up, because obviously, as much as he'd be nervous for a fight day, I'm his son at the end of the day, and I'm obviously going out to war in essence. So I can see that he does fall back on Gary and Carl a little bit on fight night to help him deal with those nerves and sort of I can see sometimes he's nervous, but he don't want me to know he's nervous. But that last one, I can see that he's nervous. So, it's just one of them relationships. It works. I don't get treated any differently to the other boys, and sort of they'll all tell you that. So it's one of them ones. For as long as I can remember, he's always been the coach, and fingers crossed, he'll be the coach till the day I retire. So. As long as if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's the old saying.
Yeah, definitely. And there have obviously been a lot of other father and son teams. Most famously, obviously Khabib and his late father. Did you ever kind of look at their relationship and what they achieved in the sport and take any inspiration from them?
Yeah, definitely. As far as MMA goes, they're probably the most established father and son duo. Another big one for us in Wales is obviously Joe Calzaghe and his father. Joe Calzaghe, one of the best boxers of all time, undefeated, multiple time unified champion, and obviously his dad was his coach. So we've been compared to them a little bit in the past, more so than Khabib and his dad. But yeah, as far as achievements in MMA go, the blueprint is there with Khabib and his late father, who obviously unfortunately passed away. But if we can sort of replicate some of that success, a lot of people said years ago that the father and son thing doesn't necessarily work, but coming in, into MMA more and more now, you see Wonderboy Thompson and his father. There's a British guy, Modestas Bukakas. His dad is his head coach. So you are seeing it creep in a little bit more now. So if we can be Wales's MMA version of Joe Calzaghe, then I think we'll both be happy with that one.
Yeah, and what are your long-term goals in the sport? And have you kind of set up any kind of aspirations for this year?
Long-term wise, I've always said, the titles and stuff like that would be great. But to just be recognised as one of, or maybe the best Welsh fighter to ever do it. I mean, I've got some stiff competition, with like the likes of Brett Johns, Jack Marshman, Mason Jones. It's never going to be an easy one. But if I can be in the conversation, in 20 years' time, when people's like, who was one of the best to do it for the out of the Welsh guys. I know how people speak about your likes of Joe Calzaghe, Gavin Rees, Gary Lockett in Wales on the boxing scene. I would like to be there on the MMA scene. And I mean, for this year, it's just a matter of, I want to make up for some lost time. I want at least 3 fights. If I can get through this one injury free, I'll be looking to turn it around nice and quick and sort of push and make a bit of a climb up the ladder towards that top 15. A good performance here, I think, could put me in good stead for potential fight at someone who's ranked, or if this doesn't put me in line, I'll just keep grafting away until I do. But I'd like to think by the end of this year, I'll either be ranked or in a position where I'm on the cusp of being ranked. But it's a crazy old sport. You never know what could happen with injuries, and I mean, look at last year. So at the minute it's one fight at a time. I'm not looking past Hunter, but in hindsight, I do want to have a busy year, and I do want at least 3 fights.
Okay, and what's your opinion about the landscape at the bantamweight division at the moment? What do you see, and do you see future opponents there for you?
Yeah, it's incredibly deep. The division is stacked. I mean, even the guys who are not ranked currently, there's so many big names, and then you look at the top 15, and there's like 5 or 6 names that you think, how are they not ranked? So it's stacked top to bottom. Along with welterweight and lightweight, it's probably the deepest division in the US. Well, I say that. All divisions at the minute seem to be firing, especially with last year. There's stars emerged that we didn't even hear of. So it's full of killers. Every single fight I have now is going to be a tough fight. There's no easy fights in our division. But there's plenty of fights there where I look at these guys who are around and think, I could beat them, and I've got a good style that I think can help me push towards the top end of the division. But I'm under no illusion that everyone in that division, the guys 1 to 15, they're probably all capable of being champions, on their day. I don't think that we're in a time where you're going to see the belt stay in one spot for too long. I think there's always going to be new guys coming through, and fingers crossed I can be one of the new ones coming through by the end of this year.
Yeah. So what did you think about UFC 259? Obviously, we had a change of champion. Aljamain Sterling obviously took the title. What was your opinion about what happened, what went down, and how he became the new champion?
Look, it is a tough situation. I mean, like, obviously, he deserved to win because the ref obviously told Yan that he was grounded, and obviously I don't think Yan really understood the rules. Like I don't think Yan's a dirty fighter, but I just think with the adrenaline pumping and in the midst of everything, he just threw the knee and wasn't thinking. So, but it wasn't intentional. You know, when the ref has told you 3 seconds before the guy's grounded, it's an intentional knee, and it is probably worthy of it is worthy of a DQ. But then, do you necessarily want to win the bout by DQ? No, but then you can't really put in the rule that you can't win a bout by DQ because a champion could be 4 rounds down and think, well, I'll just get disqualified and keep my belt. So it's a tough situation. I don't think that Aljamain was warranted all the stick he had after the fight. No, I don't think he was, putting on an act. I think he was genuinely hurt. He was genuinely concussed. But I don't think the decision should ever be on the fighter. You know, if I took a knee like that, I'm never going to want to say that I don't want to continue. But would I be compromised having a knee like that? Probably. So I think they need to bring in a rule where it's on the referee and the doctor. Like you've seen Herb Dean on the weekend. I think it was the Darren Stewart fight. You know, it may not. It was either the Darren Stewart fight or the Leon Edwards fight. I can't remember. There was one of them where there was a bit of controversy and. He just once the doctor came in and said he shouldn't continue. No, he didn't then put it on the fight and say, do you want to continue? It was like, right, that's it. So I think it should be on the referee and on the fight. On the referee and the doctor, because 99% of fighters are never going to sort of want to admit defeat and want to admit they can't continue. That's sort of just how we're built, and it's tough for people to understand it. I get it, but hopefully they just run it back and put it all to bed, because obviously Yan was coming on strong. It was looking like he was gonna win the fight. So the right thing to do is just get a rematch booked, and let the winner be the winner and go from there. You know, if Yan does win, I don't think there's need of a third match or nothing like that. You know, let's just write that one off, get it rebooked, and then we can get the division moving again.
Yeah, how do you see it going down a second time?
I mean, it all depends how Sterling approaches it. If he approaches it how he did the last one, then I think Yan takes it. I think he had a good idea with the game plan of coming out and pressuring Yan, but you gotta know what you're working with. You know, if you know you're in there for potentially 5 rounds, there's no way he's going to be able to keep that pace for 5 rounds. So although he needs to come out and put the pressure on, he needs to reserve himself a little bit more. If he comes out and reserves himself a little bit, but obviously applies pressure, then it's anyone's fight. But if he comes out like he did last time, like a bull in a china shop for 2 rounds, but then gas is out for the last 3, then you got to go with Yan, because although Aljamain was looking tired, Yan seemed to be getting stronger as the fight was going on. So based on the last fight, I would go with Yan. But having been in there, Aljo may come away now and approach this next one differently. So I do believe it's a 50-50 fight with them to every time. It's just a matter of who gets the game plan right. Yeah.
And you're of course going to be fighting in Vegas, I think for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you excited to be fighting in Vegas?
Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to obviously getting out there. It'll be my first fight in front of the American. I know there's no crowd, but the first fight in front of the American fans is on ABC, I think. So it'll bring some new eyes onto me, hopefully. It'd be a lot better if it was in a packed arena and a couple of my friends could make the trip over and watch, and my family. But a fight in Vegas is still a fight in Vegas, so I can't complain. The quarantine's not as long as Abu Dhabi, so that I am thankful for. I beat sitting in a room for 4 days. So we're going over nice and early. We're going to make use of the PI and everything like that. So it'll be nice to just get over there and experience a fight week in Vegas. They say they got a little bit of a different atmosphere to them. So me and the team are just looking forward to being in and being in the mix.
Nice. So when you think about the fight itself, how do you think it goes down?
Look, I think it's... the fight will sort of go however it'll depend on how I come out. If I come out and get into a brawl with him, then I'm never. It's going to be a tough fight to win. But if I come out, fight smart, keep it technical, and fight to the game plan like I always do, then I see it being a good night at the office. I think he is there to be finished. I don't think I'm going to have to grind him out for 3 rounds. But on the flip side, I do rely heavily on my pace and my cardio. So if I've got to push the pace and take him over 3 rounds and pinch a decision, I'm prepared to do that as well. But, I do like to get the finish in. I finished 12 or 13 opponents as a pro, so it'll be nice to keep that finish rate nice and high. And and try and get him out of there.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing it April 10th. Thank you so much.
No problem.